Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Um, yeah, let's just jump into Q&A. So go ahead, any question about anything goes. Unmute yourself or type it.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I have a question on the new Dream Kit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so the list of oils that came out in the newsletter was all the different dream oils, and there's a couple of oils that start with a P. I can't pronounce it. Can you maybe spend some time talking to us about
Sure.
the oils
Let
and how
me
to
look it
use
up.
them? Yeah,
So I'm not
sound
doing
amazing.
it from memory. Right. Okay. So unconscious, we've had in previous classes, and it's probably better to call it the unconscious rather than just unconscious. But um, uh, basically, that is to relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract and respiratory tract, which helps to stimulate more of the intuitive side of the mind. Basically keeps the normal everyday mind from being too overstimulated with sensory information, and very relaxing. Intuition is beginning to harmonize the two sides of the brain. And when you start to harmonize the two sides of the brain, the more intuitive side kind of takes like a little bit more of a lead role. And then the normal everyday mind processes the information that comes in from the intuitive mind. And remember, when I say intuitive mind, it's the part of the mind that goes beyond sensory information. So you can be drawing upon the unconscious, you could be drawing upon information coming from the higher soul, coming from reflection, drawing upon realization. And so the intuitive blend was made to kind of stimulate that what happens when you're in dream time, but to be able to do it in like a waking state. Then there is a blend called Paracelsus, and the reason that it's called that is just Paracelsus was this guy back in the day, long time ago, and it is the first time that like a liniment was like in a written form. They say that like he produced the first liniment, and so basically herbs and like an alcohol or a vinegar or some sort of base like that. And in those times, a lot of times they would do it with like soaps, which was like ash mixed with a bunch of other things. And so his was more of a almost like a medicated soap, but it was something you just put on the body and left. And it was considered like a cure-all. And the purpose of it is to basically stimulate the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is your involuntary part of your nervous system. It stimulates the rest and repair like function. A lot of times when we're doing activity, you could say we're in fight flight, or you're just in action mode. And sometimes when you come home at night or over several months, you might be a little wound up, and it's the nervous system is leaning a little bit more towards activity and a little bit less towards rest and repair. And when you don't go into rest and repair very much, you don't really process things as deeply as you could. And that also starts to become a precursor to inflammatory responses in the body. And so this liniment this blend could be used for, treating inflammatory conditions, for treating psychological issues, just because when you go into rest and repair, it becomes easy to let go of things. It becomes easy to release things, right? And so I wouldn't say Like if the adrenals were overactivated, you could use it for that. There might be some other things that might work a little bit better, but for helping the body go into that recovery mode, regardless if you're in fight, flight or not, that blend is really, really good for it. Uh, I did a kind of a big dosage of it earlier in the week, and I did it kind of midday, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna get some stuff done. Yeah, I did a bath and I was pretty done. Like I did nothing else the rest of the day, even though I had a to-do list. And so it would be good to be done like at night before you go to bed rather than um, uh, midday. I was doing an experiment, and so it worked. And so it really puts you into a place where you just kind of go into that repair kind of mode, and the mind kind of quiets down, and you're able to process things a little bit better in sleep time. And then the dream body, mm, it's you really don't have like a dream body like you do your mental body, your physical body, but it's a set of responses, you could say, or a set of functions. And so it's stimulating some aspects in the endocrine system, immune system, and nervous system to help deepen your ability to go into deeper states of dreaming. And so you can use it at night before you go to bed to increase and improve sleep. You can use it to, help with the reduction of stress and the stress response. But you also will process things more deeply in your sleep. You'll kind of have realizations or draw conclusions to a higher degree when you're sleepy, and can improve meditation, things of that nature. I mean, it helps the body get like more deep, restful sleep. And so, like when I was started using it a few days ago, I realized like I'm a little bit more tired than I thought, And so, like doing a little bit of extra sleep, like normally about 5:30 in the morning, I start kind of waking up, and then I pretend sleep for about an hour or so, and then I start getting up. And yeah, since I've been using it, I'm waking up at like 7:30, like I'm getting a couple extra hours of sleep because I just let myself wake up without an alarm most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time. And so it's been very helpful for that. And you can just do it without the pattern, or if you want to go deep, you can go with the pattern. But I mean, sometimes I'm just using it without the pattern. I'm just doing them in a sequence. I do it also when I'm wanting to treat something psychological, when I'm wanting to release something, because it puts you a little bit more in that dream type state when you want to release something, even though you're awake. And so it becomes very easy to let go of, an old trauma, old fear, deep-seated stresses, the tendency for your body to armor against just the bombardment of everyday, wear and tear of, interacting with people, and, aggressions and things like that. And so, aggressions directed towards you. And so one of the things that we haven't gone super deep into, we've talked about some of the things for like psychic protection, but we are going to be going a little bit deeper on it. And part of what happens with psychic when people are being aggressive towards you or violent towards you is it does stimulate a bit of we've talked about how it stimulates responses in the immune system, nervous system, and endocrine system, but on a deeper level, like one more explanation is it can aggravate pains that you already have in your body, and it can stimulate the inflammatory response and even make the inflammatory response hyperreactive. So, normally it would take this much to make inflammation happen in your body. When you're hyperreactive, it could take this much. It doesn't take very much for you to go into this like inflammatory response. And so with that, your body starts to have more food sensitivities, more allergies, more aches and pains. Um, and it's basically tied to the aging process. Inflammation is directly tied to the aging process. You could actually say the aging process is an inflammatory response. And so even variations of this, we're going to talk about over the next few weeks through the newsletter, how to utilize variations of things that are in this for dealing with, toxic environments, people being adversarial with you. And it's kind of a precursor to, whether you do it or not, it's a precursor to what we're going to be doing with the alchemy of the materialization class, which is, we're calling it a materialization class, but I don't know that it's really like a materialization class, like how you focus on goals and things. It's basically a way to condition the basic chakra and the pineal gland to basically heal and transform the environment. And it's tied to these 12 chemical processes in the zodiac. And so, it's tied to this 3-step process. One was cleansing the blood, one was the vital centers, and then this other part with the set of the 12 chemical processes. That is the third and like the final piece to all this. And so with that, a lot of what starts to happen is you start flushing out forms of like psychic attack, aggression towards you. Most of it's unconscious, you're not really aware of it, but also like forms of like stress, things that pull your basic into like automatic response, and things that pull you away from processing information from the higher soul. And so it's a way to do the maintenance in between of doing the big practice with alchemy of materialization. It would be a way to do maintenance in between, or if you're in a time of crisis, you could go through and do with it. It's another way to also help to allow like consciousness and perceptions to shift and change. When we're driven by our lower nature, which we all have it. We're all wrestling with that, and we wake up by degrees, but a lot of that is always tied to habits and automatic behaviors, automatic thinking. And so we try to come at it different angles to just keep unwinding the conditioning, so that as time goes by, the automatic responses begin to diminish, and you get to be more of who you are in the present time. You get to reboot yourself and kind of walk away from the past conditioning. And so the alchemy for the materialization is like a way to thoroughly go through and do that. But this was kind of like a short version. And these aren't even oils that are in the alchemy class. There's these blends that are just tied to these alchemical processes. We put what zodiac sign they're associated with in the booklet, but it's not so much about the zodiac sign itself. It's more about the alchemical process. And so, I try to do that for the vital centers. Like we made that one blend that's just the vital center, blend. It doesn't treat everything that the vital center class does, but if you're dealing with somebody who's not going to sit and do the whole class or need some maintenance in between, it's a way to treat it without them, sitting down and doing the whole class. At least there's something there. And so this was an attempt to go through and do the things that we'll be doing in the alchemy class, alchemy for materialization, but without, you might be working with a patient, a client, or you just might want maintenance in between, or whatever. I wanted to have like a short version of how to be able to go through and treat it. And so this was the way to do it. When you do the alchemy of materialization, it's a much deeper process. And I find when I do it without even thinking, I become significantly more creative. But, to sit down and do the whole process all the time, it takes a few hours to sit through it and just fire through it. And, it might be the end of the day and I don't have time to go through and do a 2-hour or 3-hour process or something, So this is what I use in between that. Yeah. And so, we were talking about this actually even in the circles with Astara, because, I'm doing some work for a couple different modalities, and one of them we are tying some of the work with the blood work, doing purification with the blood work, and the question was posed, like, how do you even go through and work on the vital centers and these alchemical processes, and the cleansing of the blood without having the process of the plants. And it's really hard to do it without a substance. In the old days, they would make these like elixirs and things that, they were part plants and part energy and part all kinds of things. And that's how they would do it. And then sometimes they would do it with ceremony. But, the plants are so good at going through and doing it. But if you didn't have that, how would you be able to do it? Like, especially this thing with the alchemical process of the zodiac. When we were looking at it, because it's briefly mentioned in some of the Astara writings, and it's briefly mentioned in some of the old alchemical writings, and there's no pictures or explanation on how to address it. And so it took me probably a decade to be able to come up with what I felt was an effective way to be able to go through and treat it. And my guess is that it was an inner practice, inner teaching, and it was passed down orally from teacher to student. And so, we've been building towards this for a while, emphasizing the blood and the vital centers and really going deep on the vital centers. But the alchemy of the materialization class is actually kind of the next step that pulls together a bunch of the angel work and pulls together the materialization work and pulls together, psychological healing, it's starting to pull all these things together. And so the dream kit was just kind of a way to have some maintenance, or like a short version for people who had, busy lives, or, like for me, I might not sit down and do the whole materialization or alchemy of materialization class. I travel with those oils all the time. You'll see me like I have a little polycarbonate case that's purple. Those are my alchemy of materialization oils that I have. And like at the end of the day, I sit to do them and I'll get through like 3 or 4 of them, and then I'll usually fall asleep, because the body's tired or whatever. But this, I can use it fall asleep and still be processing things the way that I should. And then when I do the materialization, the alchemy of materialization layout, it takes it like deeper, you know. Yeah, like so, like that, and then there'll be a class, and I think it's in May or June. The I am presence will go even deeper into the limbic system, and I mean it literally with the blood and the vital centers. You're really unwinding the karmic patterns or the karmic imagery, and with the alchemy of materialization, you're really starting to unwind the effects of that information on your physiology and on your mind. And then the I am presence is tying together a bunch of the angel work. You know, they're not archangels. It's a lot of the normal angels are all tied into that practice, and you're just unwinding and connecting the mind body to a very high degree, and like it's all kind of being pulled together in this one big like process. And so the dream kit is like I keep saying, it's like a way of doing maintenance. It's a therapy unto itself. One of the ways that I like to use it is either doing energy healing with it, or doing the bowls, you know, the sounding of the bowls, or to use the 4 blends and go to sleep, or to pull out the dorje and bless for a while and then go into like a meditation or the use of mantra. So it's almost like a gateway to open up a bunch of different things. But you know, you're reconditioning the basic chakra to be more of an ally rather than resisting the higher soul, and it really starts to activate and change the pineal gland and the mental permanency to a much higher degree. You know, both the dream kit is like the like small version of it, and then the materialization, alchemy of materialization, is like the big version of it. And so it's just kind of tying a bunch of things together. So threw it out there, and I put it in where there was information kind of with it, so it could be a standalone. It's something that practitioners could use if they're doing healings with individuals. You know, as we go through the summer, I kind of want, I'm shooting for that if people want to do aromatherapy sessions with people, they'll have the skill set to do it regardless of how you have evaluated the person. And if you're doing other healing modalities, whatever they might be, energy work, massage, talk therapy, you know, astrology, whatever it is, that these things can be put into place to augment the things that you're already doing. And so this dream kit is one of those pieces that we're putting forth. So
That's wonderful. And I also noticed that, so thank you for that profound and detailed explanation, Greg. On the website, just really quick follow-up, there is a oil that's called Dreaming.
yeah, that is just to stimulate the dream process. That's a even smaller version of the dream kit. Like that was made a long time ago for one of the classes, and I can't remember what class it was in, but the whole 4-step process didn't really kind of fit in, and the dream body didn't really do exactly what I wanted. So I made like a dreaming blend at the time to fit into the class. Letty probably knows what class we're talking about, but it's a smaller version. You could substitute the dreaming for intuition somewhat. You know, they're not the same, but they know each other. You know what I mean? They come from the same tribe, so to speak. And so it gets you in the ballpark. The other one that kind of gets you in that same ballpark is the planetary oil Mercury. Mercury will get you in the same kind of ballpark. Yeah.
It sounds like the kit is really the end to end. Using the
For
kit is
the
better.
materialization class, yeah, or the dream kit, yeah, the dream kit is good for. I was trying to make a kit that would be set up for like either doing a lot of self healing or like working with patients. Somebody who's working with somebody, and so it could actually even be folded into like the pain class. Doing different kinds of pain work and things like that. Pain has a very profound effect on us, and um, it's not just the sensory information of the ouch, and there's a lot to it, and it affects our mental processes to a much higher degree than I think we give it credit for or realize. And so like you've heard me say, the original pain class was almost 200 pages, I think, the booklet. And versions of like this dream kit were in there, but it was too complicated. Like I taught it to a bunch of nurse practitioners. It took too much evaluation and too much interpretation to be able to apply it. And so, I keep like breaking it down, and even like that blend Gilead that we have that we use for things, that was in the some of the original pain classes. And eventually I pulled it out, and I thought we'll address it later in other classes and everything. But again, tied to when you have pain, you also start to have lower emotional responses. It starts to affect the instinctive mind. It starts to overstimulate the sensory mind, and it really starts to shut down the more intuitive part of your mind. And so just ways of unwinding that. And so whenever we're dealing with things like this, it's not like working with a computer where you can do this, and this, and it produces this result. You can to a certain extent, but people are different. They come from different places. They have different experiences. They have different intensities. They have so many different things that it's almost like doing these like circles, and you kind of go through and do it, and then you come back around, and you do like a variation of it, and you do this other variation of it. And for some people, the first circle might do it, the second circle, but you keep just kind of coming back at it, because really what you're doing by doing that is you're harnessing the law of cycles, which is the creative process. I mean, that is actually how the creative process works. And so you're kind of harnessing that creative process and then riding the coattails of it. But instead of it potentially spiraling down, it's spiraling more up. And so, there still might be high points and low points, but the thing is always moving more upward. And so the goal is to keep working these things in different ways, because we've had different experiences, we have different backgrounds, we have different genetics, we have all kinds of different pieces, and mental bodies. Even though we have some of the same mechanics, we process things somewhat differently. We learn things in different ways. And so by doing these loops, you kind of are able to hit kind of everything. And also, say if like for me, I learn really well when I hear it, right? But somebody else might be like reading it, or however, when you go through and you do these loops like this, you start to be able to increase your ability to process in all the different ways, because the brain is not overstimulated with the sensory activity, and you're moving past you're getting information that's beyond the senses. You're moving past just processing sensory information. And so, that starts to open up the gate of self-reflection and awareness and realization and taking in information from the environment in a very different way, seeing patterns, seeing archetypes, and also being guided by the soul. And so, the goal is that. And if you think about, like, in the ones that have been in the classes over the last several weeks, a lot of people are having kind of big like intuitive insights. They're having flashes of, like, when they were sitting and being still, they had like guidance, like if I put my attention here or there, when I'm doing a mantra, or a piece of information comes in about a situation, or how to move forward in a difficult time. We're in difficult times, and so breaking away from the way things used to be and being able to be adaptive and be like intuitive in times really helps you to step away from the past as a spiritual practitioner, but also a practical application is also learning to adapt in a world that is changing pretty dramatically over the last like 3 years or so. And it's not going to go back to normal. It's changing into something different, and it just allows us to be able to put ourselves in the right place at the right time, so to speak.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Before we go to the next person whose hand's raised, I just want to kind of be logistical about the dream kit. People are wondering, how do we apply the roller balls? What's the pattern we use? Can you clarify the order of the oils?
It's all on the.
I didn't post it in the newsletter.
Oh, you
the
didn't?
whole protocol. I can do that here for you guys now, and I can send an email out too.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, I think we were setting it up as like if they got the kit, like, is that what it was? Yeah. So
It's okay. I just posted it. I didn't
Yeah.
know if it was okay.
perfect. So she posted it.
As far as roller balls, would they put it on the specific centers?
You could, but actually it's just meant to be more like something that you inhale. And then a lot of times with something like this, I roll it on the heart and on the forehead. And sometimes you'll see me go like this. This is my neat little trick that I like to do with roller balls, is I roll it right on my nostrils. And then it's already got a little jojoba in it. And boom, I'm doing inhalations while I'm sitting there talking to people.
I mean, the applications come with the kit. So each time.
Yeah.
Just wanted to remind everyone that.
And the sequence is the way that it's listed. So the way it's listed on the kit order on the site or in the newsletter, but the applications, there's like just doing them in order, and then there is a pattern for each one of them for like more advanced work.
Go ahead, Chris. Thanks for waiting there.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam. This is Chris Strassner. I wanted to thank you so much for the post-ops healing kit that came at very excellent timing. It arrived in today's mail before today's study group.
Yeah. Very good.
So I just had a couple of questions, and if you can't, and wondering if you had time to go into it regarding some of the oils. So have been using the galbanum and the black cumin for months since telling you about the hip issue. So using that for some pain and some relief. But the new ones are the Blue Healer, the Body Tonic, the Vetiver ointment, and the Helichrysum Supreme, which looks like it's a roll-on. So I was wondering if you could touch on those and how to use them.
So the Helichrysum Supreme, once the wound is healed. So for those of you who don't know, Chris had his hip replacement. So he's doing post-surgery treatments for a hip replacement. And boy, after the surgery, doesn't the hip feel better? Like you have the pain of the surgery, but that pain like deep in that socket is gone. Yeah.
Oh, yes, most definitely. As soon as
Yeah.
I could stand up, even
Yeah,
still
yeah,
feeling groggy and under the anesthesia, that nagging
right.
pain in the groin
It's
area would be
gone.
completely
Yeah,
gone.
like
Yes.
yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Like yeah. So once the wound is closed up, start taking the helichrysum rollerball and rubbing it on the incision site, like right on the line itself, and then a little bit around it. And it's pretty strong helichrysum, but it's got some jojoba in it. It's about 4 mils of helichrysum and 6 mils of the jojoba. And so you're getting pretty potent, but should be very soothing to the skin. And the idea is, for one, it will help reduce inflammation and reduce some pain, but you're reducing the scarring that's in and around that area, which is really not so much about the incision site, but you're dealing with which you would call a fascial lesion, which is like a knot, but in soft tissue rather than in a muscle. Right, what they call, what most people call scar tissue is actually a fascial lesion, which is like a type of knot, but in the soft tissue. And so by going through and putting helichrysum on that, it helps to reduce the inflammation, and it helps increase and improve the circulation to that fascial lesion. And the way that you release that kind of scar tissue or a fascial lesion is you basically hydrate it. You hydrate it with blood. Right. And so by taking out that spasm and that tension allows more blood to penetrate that area and breaks down the scar tissue quite substantially. If you don't do something like that, what they are going to do in, probably 4 or 6 weeks or something is they would have you in physical therapy, and they will do like some friction massage, which, they go against the incision site and they rub kind of back and forth kind of vigorously to what they would say is like break up the scar tissue, but you're irritating it to get blood in the area, so that blood starts to penetrate the scarring. And so there's been many cases where we went through and we applied the helichrysum after the incision closed up, and when they would go into physical therapy, they'd go, yeah, you don't even need the friction massage. The effects are pretty consistent. I mean, there's been a couple of times where it didn't completely treat it, but I think there's like other factors involved other than just the local site, and the person already had some fascial issues in other parts of their body, and so that's probably the case there. But I mean, I'd say 90% of the time, the helichrysum just knocks that scar out like nobody's business, and it's not something that's like an ongoing thing. It's usually by the time that bottle's done, your scar issue is done. Every once in a while, you need to do a second bottle, and sometimes you end up doing a second bottle just because it feels good on the scar site. Because the other issue is that because of the incision, you'll have a little bit of pain as time goes by when there's changes in the barometric pressure, or like if you get cold, like that area will ache a little bit. But if you keep treating it with the helichrysum, even that goes away. Like that will just stop being an issue at some point. And so the helichrysum is meant for freeing up that fascial lesion and reducing the scar tissue, and the incision site itself. It will take out the thickening, like and if you have a tendency for keloiding, like where it gets thick, it will actually even thin that down. I mean, I've used it on people where the scar was 20 years old. We put it on there, on a daily basis, and the keloid actually started going away. And so like almost immediately, like within a few days of treatment. And so you use that bottle up, even if it feels good, keep using it up, because you want to rehab that site. And then the blue healer is basically super anti-inflammatory and super soothing to the sensory nerves. It's very anti-inflammatory. Like you can see, it's a super dark blue oil floating around. So the solution that it's in is, that makes it a body tonic is witch hazel. So, and it's pure witch hazel. There's no alcohol, there's no anything. It's just pure witch hazel. So shake it up really good, and then, put a little bit in your hand and then rub it all over the area. And again, that's going to be very, very soothing. It's going to be anti-inflammatory. Usually within about 60 to 90 days, about 80% of the inflammation is reduced after a surgery site, but that last 20% sometimes takes 9-10 months, so you want to just keep hitting the anti-inflammatory component of that. And the thing that happens after a surgery usually is that, you come out of the surgery and the site feels okay. And then about a week to 10 days into it, the body starts waking up in that area, the nerves start waking up, and the pain can get a little bit worse for a little bit, And so, they're very good about giving you meds to stay in front of the pain intensity. But as soon as your meds start to wear off, that pain starts to kind of sink in. And so the blue healer, the reason why I gave you the blue healer was, for one, anti-inflammatory, calms down the sensory nerves, will help augment the pain meds, whatever they have you on. It helps to, keep the edge of the pain down and keep it from spiking too much. But that period of rebound, like when everything starts to wake up, if you apply it on a daily basis, it will knock that down, I find, quite substantially. There's been times where it was so, but it makes it pretty bearable. And so, you're just trying to weather a storm there. After a few days or a week, it kind of goes away, but you do have that kind of rebound effect. And so there was that component. And remind me, I can't remember, what was the last thing? Oh, vetiver.
It was vetiver ointment, yes.
Right. So the reason for the vetiver, very soothing to the body. It it has muscle relaxing properties to it. And when you're dealing with like a surgery site, you're dealing also with muscles that muscles balance each other. And so there's muscles that work with each other, and then there's muscles that work against each other. And so when you have this surgery site, sometimes what happens is there's going to be certain muscles that have lost tone that are going to throw the muscles that oppose them into like sort of a spasm, right? And so the vetiver is very, very relaxing. But the thing that I don't know how much we've talked about this in the past, but part of the thing with vetiver is it's actually quite good in stimulating the immune response. Like, it's very good for strengthening your immunity. It's very relaxing to the body. It can diminish cortisol levels in the body somewhat. It calms down the sensory nerves as they fire and go into the brain. But one of the other things that vetiver is very good for is it calms down a hyperreactive immune system. And normally you would say hyperreactive in the vein of like an autoimmune disorder, but here you don't have an autoimmune disorder, but you've had a situation where it was bone on bone or real close to being bone on bone. But usually when they're doing the surgery, it's bone on bone. And so there's been a lot of inflammation over a period of time, and the body just gets wound up in this inflammatory response. And it's almost like it doesn't have to like think it out. It almost just starts going there almost immediately. And so even though you've had the surgery and everything, sometimes the body is still a little bit in that process a little bit. And so I would actually rub that on your abdomen in the low back area. You don't even have to rub it on the site itself, but it will soothe that inflammatory response while stimulating the immune system and help the lymph move through the internal organs so that your lymphatic system doesn't get stuck in the gut, which happens a lot with the hip issue. And so it's a way just to kind of keep the body relaxed, keep the immune system functioning, keep the immune system regulated, and it's just soothing to the body. Yeah.
Okay. With the helichrysum, the roll-on do you have a maximum number of times a day that should be applied once I can start applying it?
You can go crazy with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if it feels good and it takes down some of the pain, you want to do it 8 times a day, you could. I mean, usually people will do it once or twice, but that first couple of weeks, you might not be too active and you're laying there. And I say knock it out, because the more that you reduce that fascial lesion, the less the pain is. Like when you get up and start moving, some of the pain is the surgery site itself, but some of it is actually from that fascial lesion. And so if you can reduce that fascial lesion and you're getting up and you're starting to increase your mobility and you're starting to increase the distances that you're walking and things like that, the more that that's unwound, the easier that stuff becomes. And the other thing is, when you're taking the black cumin internally, it's reducing inflammation, it's stimulating lymphatic movement, but it also is breaking down some of the scar tissue, but from the inside out. So you kind of have like this double approach to breaking down that scar tissue. So it usually makes you be able to be more active quicker than normal. What has been reported back to me several times was that we'd put people on variations of this like little protocol for the hip replacement, and the doctor would get concerned because the person was walking much further than was the standard, and they were afraid that they were overdoing it. But the person's like, I don't hurt. Like, I don't hurt, like, to make you stop. And so, yeah, like it makes mobility much easier when the time comes. It doesn't work so great like on knees. Like, I mean, it does, but knees are so much more complicated to come back from. Hips, man, they just got it down. But if you look, the joints are very different. The hip is a socket, where knees are odd. They're just two bones stacked on top of each other. You know what I mean? It's not like a ball and socket like your shoulder or your hip is. And so knees are a bit more complicated to recover from. And so, we do some different processes for that. Inflammation is usually a little bit worse there, but the hips are, that hip surgery, I mean, they have it down. I mean, it is so straightforward these days. I mean, I don't even think it takes them very long to do it. I mean, it's like about an hour or so. Like, I mean, it's crazy how fast they can even do the whole thing.
Yeah, usually they time it out for 2 hours, but in my case, because my surgeon happens to be the meticulous one, they went a little bit longer. But yeah, it's about 2 hours, I think, is the average now for doing the hip replacement.
Right.
Posterior,
but that's
anyway,
that's like prep and everything, right? It's like anesthesia. It's like, so it's not even him hands-on. It's like the whole time you're in the surgery center.
No, that's from when you hit the OR. So when they transfer you over from your gurney onto the actual OR table, but the surgeon's all prepped. And like my case, they did the templating. They had a robot that they used, to help them with the fit and all that type of stuff.
Right.
So it's
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, nice.
But very good. Thank you again so
Good-
much.
good
I'm
for
so
you.
grateful and
Yeah, any
appreciative for
questions you have about that?
all your
let me know.
time and
Yeah,
the
my
kit.
pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, good luck with your recovery, but yeah, life's going to be different here very shortly.
Yep. I will definitely, and thank you also too, Sam, but I will definitely keep you posted either through these study groups or email on progress and then how the ingredients from the kit you sent me work.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And then before we go to our next question, somebody is asking, can this kit be on the website? Is that possible? Like we make it a kit on the website?
Oh, sure.
Is that like
Yeah,
something that's
yeah.
applicable for all post-op?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably like if you're having, I'm sitting here thinking this out a little bit, like if you're having surgery on like something in your digestive tract or abdominal cavity, the bladder, it might be a little bit different, but probably not much. Yeah, we'll make the kit available. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know why we haven't done it yet, but usually people reach out and I just make them the kit. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know why we haven't made it a kit. Yeah.
All right, and then
Sometimes things are right in front of you and you just go, I don't know why I haven't done that. I have all the information in my notes, didn't even think of it, So
Yeah, Greg, why didn't you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
But thank you again.
My pleasure.
go ahead, Megan.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, Greg. I had such a memorable experience when you did this Astara blessing. It was over a year ago because I remember it was New Year's, but not this year. It was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've done so many meditations, so many events and our Haddock yoga retreat and whatever. And I'm just still thinking like, will that happen again? It was so amazing. And maybe you have a way for me to make it happen again. I don't know. Or maybe you can tell me what you did if you remember, it was so long ago. But what happened was the next morning I woke up just with this like totally different level of belief of all these things I've been reading about for years and years. So basically, like, if you ask me like, is the blue pearl real? I will say yes, but it was a whole different level outside of that. And I was like, oh my God, it's real. That's all I can think of to describe how I felt about it. And I said, I'm going to go sit with this, when I have time, and just played everything. And I never had a chance. And I thought that was permanent. And then it went away in like probably 24 hours. And I don't know, like, did you thin the webs? Did you?
No,
I don't know.
Usually when I do something like that, it is the utilization of holy names. And so, the thing with thinning the web is, you can do that with energy, but it actually causes some problems too. Like, it's like it has like a good thing, bad thing with it. And it's like you can have the experience, but there's a little bit of a price to pay. So I don't like to mess with the webs too much like that. But it was a series of holy names.
Okay.
And so, there's the holy names from the 11 chakras, and then the use of, I'll say it once, but it's YHVH, but it's Yol He Va He. So, but part of it too is how I prep. And so like going into doing like some of the blessings and some of the ceremonies for the different events, I prep, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier with the alchemy of materialization class. Basically when I get ready to do the blessings and things, to allow more of that energy to flow through me and increase my ability to invoke that. I don't do the whole class with the patterns, but I go through and I smell the 12 alchemical processes. And like you're going to see in the booklet that they're tied, they're in like these 3 segments of 4, and it's actually from the writings of Alice Bailey. And I want to say it's in the Labors of Hercules, but they're tying the zodiac signs in these like bundles to produce a certain effect. And so yeah, the explanation that they give there, I even put in the booklet itself so that you could see kind of like how to use it, or at least have an idea, metaphorical level of how to use it. But you know, some years I have a little bit more time to go through and prep for it. And sometimes, you know, I'm only prepping the day before. I think that year we were supposed to try, if I remember right, we were supposed to travel and go to Hawaii and teach a class in Hawaii. And because of COVID testing and Hawaii not letting people in with that, and then I had a big client that had some issue come up, and we couldn't make the trip. And so all of a sudden I had this time that I was supposed to be traveling, but I wasn't. So I had really gone deep on the alchemical processes that are in the materialization class, and that was the byproduct of it, was that.
Okay, so it takes Greg a whole day of preparation to get Megan.
I think that was actually several days of preparation.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, it wasn't like I was doing it the whole day. Like I did it for like an hour and then took a salt bath, and then I did it the next day and took a salt bath. You know, it was like that. But yeah, but even doing the alchemy of the materialization stuff would probably help you like hold on to it yourself. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I just
or
registered
be
for
able
that
to,
class
yeah,
right before this.
before, yeah, help you to like be able to do it yourself or hold on to it longer. I find that it increases my healing ability when I do it. And so, you know, be it on myself or on others, it's like an amplifier of sorts.
Yeah.
So
I also wondered, do you have a prearranged schedule for doing the Astara Sunday sessions that I can access? Because when I've tuned in a couple times, it was a different minister, and I was wondering if I can know like which Sundays you're going to do.
Pretty much. I share it with Tammy almost every time.
Okay.
Every once in a while she can't make it, and so she'll do the whole thing, and then every once in a while she can't make it, so I do the whole thing. And then sometimes when usually when I'm on the West Coast, it's hard for me to do it because it's right when the class would be starting.
Yeah.
I have her do it in my place as well. And so yeah.
Okay.
And then
So
we
you're
do
usually
a
there.
version. Yeah, we do it Sunday, and then we do a version of it kind of similar on Wednesday night.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then this Wednesday with Astara, like after we do the normal Astara session, we're also going to do a session with starting to work with the dorjes, like not so much where we're sitting and teaching, but like the people who have dorjes, we're going to start practicing like how to use it, how to prep, like even how we were talking about using the material of the alchemy of materialization before like I do those blessings. We're going to be starting to do versions of that as you get ready to work with the dorje. We're going to start doing like some of the prep work so that it's not just picking up the dorje and blessing, but you're doing this kind of preliminary thing to amplify it. And we're just going to do little bits at a time. So like every week we're going to work with it for about 30 minutes, and we're just going to start doing this consistently for a while for the serious practitioners.
Cool.
You know, it's not for everybody, you know, like with Astara, but the ones who want something a little bit stronger and want to practice, we're going to start running them through practice sessions.
Cool. Yeah, I love, you know, doing the dorje has been just giving me something new and different to do. So
yeah, I love dorjes. Oh my God, I love dorjes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Troy.
Hey, Troy.
Let's see about getting you unmuted. You are not unmuted right now. Let's see. There you go. Try talking.
Hey,
You're
Can you hear me
so
now?
faint.
1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. How you doing, Mr. Troy?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks. So one of my questions was I broke my toe the other night. Pretty good. And I thought at first I had just gotten, it's like the small toe.
Yeah.
I think I not only got this small toe, but I think I actually got it like above the toe, like on the foot. Feels
Yeah.
pretty broken.
That metatarsal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get it x-rayed, or you can just tell by the swelling and the discoloration?
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I've
Yeah.
just broken toes before and broken a lot of bones.
Yeah.
Like,
I've had so many broken toes, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so one of the things to do, like and you probably know this from your previous broken toes and things, is if it needs stability, is just tape it to the toe next to it, like tape the two toes together. But the oil that you want to use on that quite a bit is helichrysum on it topically. Just neat, like don't even worry about mixing it with anything. Just make sure that you cover the toe in between. Try not to move it around a whole bunch, because usually it's just like a fracture. But if you think it's worse, you might want to see somebody. But like you said, you kind of have done it before. You know what they're going to do. And so this is what I always do. Like I cover it with helichrysum for the first few days, and then I rotate taking galbanum and black cumin in. And usually when you start doing the black cumin and the galbanum, the pain level goes down and the inflammation starts reducing almost immediately, like within usually a couple of hours. And so, it doesn't shrink down completely, but it just starts shrinking. And you start to if there's a lot of bruising or discoloration, it starts breaking up kind of quickly. The helichrysum will do that as well. And so that combination usually kind of is what does it.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But if you think that it's a little bit more broken or something, I mean, definitely go. The toe I'm not too concerned about, but that metatarsal, up higher. Just be careful on it. Don't do, if you can stay off of it a little, I mean, granted, you're going to be walking around doing stuff, but if you can stay off of it a little bit, elevate it at night, maybe put a little ice on it as well. Always good to do a little compression, so like an ace bandage of sorts, wrapping it in the area or tape it up. That's always good, just to keep it as stable as possible. But other than that, it's just some time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just curious. How did you break it?
I was just coming out of the bathroom and I didn't open the door fully all the way, but I had like forward motion. So I kept
No.
moving through and I just,
Yeah.
soccer punted the door frame
Yeah.
with my,
Yep.
felt like a knucklehead.
Yeah. Oh, hey, been there. I've been there so many times. Like, yeah. I've kicked stairs, going upstairs, I've like kicked the stair a couple of times, like I've done that a couple of times. And I nailed it on a door one time and dropped, pulled a drawer out too far and it fell on the foot. And so just for future reference too, for you and for everybody, that like say it was that kind of scenario where you pulled a drawer out and the drawer fell and hit the foot. And so with that, there's the contusion, from the impact, and then there's also a little bit of the fracture or the swelling. So you would do all the same things, but sometimes when you've had something like a drawer fall or a little bit more of a substantial blow to it, it will tear open the skin. And one of the things with the helichrysum is it actually has a cleansing effect, like physically cleansing on the open wound itself. It does reduce the pain. And when a wound is open, you see this in pranic healing where there's the technique for closing the wound. You use orange and red and it starts to bind the wound. Helichrysum is that in the essential oil world. Like when you put helichrysum on it, the wound will actually start moving together to actually bind. The only times that I have not seen that work too well is when people have gone through a lot of chemotherapy, like their body's ability to heal wounds goes down substantially. And they might have an open wound for months that even with it being stitched up, it still won't bind and close. That's been the only time that I haven't seen the helichrysum accelerate the wound healing. It just, it has more to do with their bodies in a state that's not allowing it to heal rather than the helichrysum's not working. But, that can be your go-to thing anytime that there's that kind of injury. The only thing that I would augment that with is the night that it would happen or the day that it would happen is you could always add inhaling tarragon for, for the first few hours, just, keep inhaling it from time to time. And it will reduce the spasms and reduces the shock in the body from the injury itself. But like if it happened already more than 24 hours, don't even worry about that part. That's just for immediate treatment. You would still do the 3 components we talked about, but you would just add the tarragon, and after 24 hours, you can just drop the tarragon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. So if it's okay, I have one other question.
Yeah, of course.
It's not quite as specific, but I've just been noticing like soreness and stiffness, like kind of seems like it's just becoming like an ongoing thing. And I used to just notice it like after running a long distance or super fast or after rock climbing. But I
I didn't
feel
know
like
you're a rock climber.
I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I didn't know you're a rock climber.
Oh yeah, for years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I just feel like it's just kind of like a daily thing that's it's starting to just feel like chronic. Like, and I noticed it especially in the legs and low back.
Okay.
And I don't know, I'm starting to feel like a little bit concerned about it, that it just feels like it's like constantly showing up in my awareness.
So muscles just get sore and you don't quite recover as much. And then, like you said, the joints are stiff. Are the joints achy?
Yes, achy and stiff, and just kind of like it's sort of just becoming like a sort of almost constant dull achy pain in the joints.
Are you getting any rashes or eczema or anything on the skin?
No.
Digestive issues at all?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. I mean, that's probably a bit of the body's been processing inflammation and you have a bit of an inflammatory response. You could go about this a couple of different ways. I mean, the galbanum and the black cumin might help, but you might need to step it up a notch. And first off, how's your sleep been? Has your sleep been good? Has it been real poor?
It actually has gotten better just in the last week, but sleep has always been an issue for me.
Okay. Okay. Headaches, anything like that?
Rarely ever.
Rarely. Okay, good. So I would do things to reduce inflammation. Inflammation can, going back to what we were saying before, like sometimes you kind of keep looping around with different things, different approaches. And so, there's that blend inflamin basically it's inflamed with end added. You can do that. You can do German chamomile. You can do yarrow. You can do like either the dark blue tansy or the regular blue tansy. I'd probably lean a little bit more towards like the German chamomile or the yarrow. Yarrow is pretty antispasmodic, and so that might help as well. You could put it on areas like meat, but since you have such a large area, I put it in alcohol or witch hazel, and then use it like a rub, like rub it on the area, and this is going to sound weird too. Has there been situations like with work or whatever where there's been people being really adversarial with you?
No.
Okay. All right. So, sometimes when you're in situations like that, it can elevate the inflammatory response, but it could just be your exercise. It can just could be the exercise doing it. And then, like you said, you had a little bit of a track record of not getting the greatest sleep. And so do that. And then if you have, like that blend, the Paracelsus, you could use something like that. But if you probably have wormwood in your kit, like in the things that you have. Do you have the wormwood oil?
Yes.
Take like 12 or 15 drops and put it in like maybe just a little tiny bit of lotion or massage oil, and every night just rub it on your gut. Like just rub it on your gut. And I'd probably do that until the bottle is gone. And the thing is doing that at night combined with the anti-inflammatory effects of like the yarrow and the German chamomile and all that, you're reducing the inflammation and you're reducing the spasms, which allows your lymphatic system to detoxify to a much higher degree, right? And then when you're putting the wormwood on or that Paracelsus blend, it is shifting you into more of a rest and repair mode and allows your body to repair itself to a much higher degree. And I suspect with the activities that you have going on, for one, it's a very common problem doing the kind of sports that you're doing, like, running and rock climbing. And I mean, rock climbing takes a lot of endurance. And so the ability to let yourself recover allows you to, for one, not be so sore, and allows you to perform like quicker and to a much higher degree. And so like when I used to travel with endurance athletes, it's mostly cyclists, but we would always, as soon as I would start working with them, we'd start monitoring their waking pulse. And the goal was always to get their waking pulse, as low as we could get it. And when they did, even when they had injuries, they would say, they would get injured even at the event, and they'd go, even though I got injured, I still feel better than I felt in a long time. And it was because their body was repairing itself to a higher degree. And the issue that happens sometimes with endurance athletes is they don't get enough rest, and then they overtrain or they overperform, or they overdo in the exercise component, and the body doesn't get quite the level or degree of rest that it needs to be able to maintain that level of performance. And so given the sports that you're doing, I would say you're probably starting to fall in that category a little bit, where you're still young, so you can pull it off, but eventually what happens over a period of time, it starts catching up to you. And so an athlete in the year will try to peak at a certain time of the year to like really perform well for a month or two, and then they know that it's going to float away. And part of it is you're pushing your body past that point, and then you're not getting quite the repair time because you're performing, but then afterwards you have to go into like a deeper level or state rest and repair. And so the key is not to overdo it with training up until that point. But when you're just doing it for like lifestyle, you don't have that goal like you would, like if you were trying to train for a particular race or something. And so, you don't quite have the same approach to handling all that. So these things will just flare up from time to time. And your ability to reduce the inflammation, get your body into that rest and repair mode as quickly as possible, translates into your ability to recover and then perform again at maximum, capacity quicker than normal. And so over a period of time, the guys who are really good at resting. They're really super good at resting. Everybody thinks they're a great physical specimen, and they usually are, but they're usually better at resting than their peers. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you need that augmented a little bit, we might have to do a little flush for the lymphatic system. We're going to do a class at the end of April, the regeneration of the immune system. And instead of being a class like we normally do, like the kit is going to be a bunch of like ointments and salt scrubs. And it's basically, the kit is going to be like, the price of the class is $225. It's going to be $225 worth of product. And we're going to do like a treatment weekend to rehab the lymphatic system, the inflammatory response, and strengthening the immune response. If you're not feeling good with a few weeks of treatment like this, then do that class. Like it will, it's meant just to revamp you, just reset your whole immune response. We're not going to be sitting and breathing like how we do in most classes. This is going to be, you're going to rub an ointment on, you're going to rub a liniment on, you're going to rub this, you're going to take a break and go do a salt scrub. It's going to be like different than what we've done in other classes.
Sounds great. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Before we go to our next person, just really quick, someone wanted to clarify for the galbanum and the black cumin, is that internal, both of them?
Black cumin, definitely internal. Galbanum, if you can handle taking a few more drops of something else internally. Sometimes people can be a little sensitive. If not, put several drops on your wrist neat, and then just rub your wrists together. But normally I have them do both internally, like 2 to 3 drops each in water, and then drink it.
And then go ahead, Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
Let's see about getting you unmuted here.
Okay, is that now?
Hey, how are you, Miss Sonia?
I was reading that black seed is often called the black cumin, but like they're 2 separate plants. And
Yeah,
so
they are 2 separate plants. Yeah.
You're talking about the Nigella sativa, the black seed, right? Not the cumin, right?
No, actually, I'm talking about the black cumin. Yeah, they're very close, but you're right, they are 2 different plants. Black seed is what you get from the health food store, and black cumin is the stuff that I have people take here.
Are they interchangeable or?
Yeah, they're pretty interchangeable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because I was reading that they were not even related plants. So I got...
No, but they still have very similar properties, even though the plants aren't necessarily in the same family. They still have very similar properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to when you were talking about the dreaming kit, can you clarify if we were to apply it on the roller balls on the heart and the forehead, how long would you wait in between each of those oils?
I would just put them on, like, just not on top of each other. Like you could put them on all, just boom, 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 boom. But like, put one here and then one off a little bit to the side and one off to the other side. Don't just put them right on top of each other, So you can apply 4, but just like next to each other, so to speak.
Oh, these words. Okay. When you were talking about the broken toe and foot issue, what would similar recommendations for a fractured fibula by the ankle and avulsed talus?
So, okay. So again, we do the black cumin and the galbanum internally. With that, is there, there's probably a cast on that, I would imagine, or at least a soft cast or some sort of wrapping. So you can't put anything directly on that area. But usually what I have people do with that one is, you take the black cumin and the galbanum internally, but separately, and then put like kind of substantial amounts of marjoram up on the leg or up on the thigh of the same leg. And what that does is it decreases the spasms in the area, and it increases circulation and blood flow to the area. It helps the bone to heal and reduces some of the spasm, because I don't know what happened, but that sounds like an injury where you probably rolled your ankle or like jammed your ankle. And so you're dealing with the injury of the bone itself, and then you're also dealing with basically probably a pretty severe sprain or strain. And so the marjoram will help. If you want, you can rotate using marjoram on the thigh with helichrysum. Again, that helps to reduce some inflammation, stimulates lymphatic movement, keeps you comfortable. The helichrysum will reduce spasms as well, but primary would be the marjoram. Yeah. Once the wrappings are off, cover that area with marjoram for a little bit and up the shin, because you're still going to have the effects of the sprain or the strain. You're having to splint it up and immobilize it because of the injury and the broken bone. But once that's done, you still have the effects of the sprain or the strain, and the rotation of both the marjoram and the helichrysum on the shin, from the ankle all the way up to right below the knee, will be very helpful. Like, front all the way around to the side. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Who is that, by the way? Yeah.
This is my friend Craigie. She is visually impaired, and she stepped in a hole and.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so if it was stepping in the hole, the other thing that we want to be aware of is every once in a while there's a little bit of a strain in the knee, and then the same side, the SI joint, the low back, where that little joint in where your hip is, like where your hip and tailbone kind of meet. When you step in a hole, sometimes it wrenches the side of the pelvic girdle a little bit. So she could do still that, the marjoram and the helichrysum up on that area as well. But, say this is my calf, right? Like say this is my calf, like this. And so like on the back side, so here's the Achilles tendon, like right above that, like up in here, where the calf is starting to turn into the Achilles tendon. So when you step in a hole, the muscle, if I remember right, this is going back, I want to say it's the soleus. It's called the soleus. Sometimes that will be the source of the strain. And that spot will throw off the SI joint up at the hip and actually have a referred pain pattern that starts to cause low back pain. So I would treat it as if when the splint comes off or the wrappings and everything, and she's able to let it out and just breathe and not have to wear that anymore, start treating that area on the back part of the lower leg with marjoram, or even like one of the peppers, like black pepper or pink pepper or pepper supreme, something like that, viscosity. Rub it on that area like every day for like maybe a week or two, just to unwind that lower part of the calf, so that it allows for the ankle to function properly and not have a muscle imbalance, and doesn't throw off the SI joint up, in the hip girdle.
Is that all neat or in a little bit of lotion or?
If her skin can handle it, you can do it neat. But if the skin is real sensitive or real thin, then put it in a little massage oil or lotion or something, and then just apply it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And keep me posted on that. Like I'm glad to talk you through it when the cast or the splint or whatever it is comes off.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Very common injury, by the way. Very, very common injury.
For stomach bacterial and fungal infection, could bay laurel or monarda address both?
You could do that. You could also do cinnamon. Cinnamon in some water and drinking that can be quite helpful. If it's like associated with, if you're talking about candida or just an infection like that, cinnamon would work. One of the things that we do long-term wise to help improve gut bacteria is Pomarosa taken internally, a couple of drops daily over a period of time is very, very helpful. But if you're trying to do damage control with the infection in the candida outbreak, the cinnamon usually can be helpful. Tea tree actually can be helpful as well. And you would take that internally as well. Make sure it's a good quality tea tree, but a couple of drops of the tea tree and water, and then drink it, and it should calm down the candida outbreak. I usually use cinnamon, by the way, though.
And we have just less than a minute, but go ahead, Letty.
Hey, Letty.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam. Just wanted to tell you really quick, Greg, that on the dreaming oil, that was from the very first prosperity class. You actually did it in a section that was called creativity, problem solving, and stepping outside the box.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with mugwort.
Boy, I never would have guessed that.
Mugwort was a single oil, yeah. And then you actually used a pattern that I called problem solving pattern, but haven't really seen you use it much. Like I haven't really seen you use that particular pattern. It started with the throat, and then it goes to the jaw minors. There's not very many patterns that start with the throat and then jump into the jaw minors. I really haven't seen
me
you
that
use
pattern. I'd have to look it up. Or it's in the booklet that we have, the wisdom of patterns. Okay, I'll look it up.
Okay, alrighty. That was. I just wanted to tell you that. Thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you for being on top of that. Never would have guessed in a million years in the prosperity class.
All right, guys, that is the Tuesday session for this part, and we are headed right into the angel. And I just posted the link here. It's right below in your weekly newsletter. Come join us.
Yeah, and we also after we do the angel class, we're actually stepping into a little short session for a starter where we bless the prayer petitions. If you'd like to bless the prayer petitions or submit a prayer petition digitally, you can go ahead and do that. But all the ministers are getting together, and we're going to start doing this on a weekly basis, where we do it on a daily basis, but we thought we'd do it publicly together. So we're going to start doing it right after the angel class or angel study. So we'll post the link.